welcome to episode 1 of my podcast. So I figured we'll just get started and kind of give a little bit of background. So how the heck did I get right here in this moment recording a podcast? So let's start with about the time that I graduated college. I was 22 or 23, somewhere around there. And I had graduated with the intention of going to grad school about 3 months later. And at this time in my life, I was very much in the grind mode. I was a go-getter. I was working all the time, trying to make as much money as I could while being in school full time. And I thought, this is what you do to be successful, that you have to kill yourself now and it'll all pay off later. So I was going with that mindset, and that's why I started grad school just a few months after graduating with my undergrad. And I was about 2 months into grad school. I started my second semester, and I was a few days into the second semester. And I just got this feeling that I was like, this isn't it. This is not it. I was in school to be a counselor. And I was just sitting in a Zoom meeting with everybody else. And I just felt like this is not it. And I've never been super in touch with my gut feeling up until this point. Listening to your gut always sounded like a foreign concept to me. I'm very much like a head type. So I'm like, I can think my way through this with logic. And that didn't work because then I'm sitting in grad school and I have no logic to back it up. I just know this is not where I'm supposed to be. So I called the school the next day and I quit with no plan. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that that wasn't right. And I had already given so much time and energy to that. And I just felt like I could not continue on feeling this miserable. So I decided I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something authentic and something that doesn't kill me in the process. Because I just decided it just didn't feel like living miserable even for 2 or 3 years was worth it in the long run. Like, to me, those 2 to 3 years, it doesn't sound like a lot, but why would I not enjoy every day that I have? And so with that mindset, I just quit. No idea what I was doing. And a few days later, I decided to get a yoga certification. And that was just like, I felt like my head was not included in any of these decisions. I was just like almost following this like guiding force and feeling like I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know whatever I'm doing is right. And there's no logic to that. It, like, my mind could not figure it out. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to be a yoga teacher. I don't even, like, I've gone to like 2 yoga classes before this and I actually hated them. And it was the space that I was in and the space that I was coming to the class from. It wasn't anything about the class. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to spend hundreds of dollars on a yoga certification. Do I even like yoga? I don't know. I honestly had no idea. And I just started it because I found it online and I was like, this feels right. And so I just did it. And so through this search for authenticity led me to my yoga journey. And I took 11 months to finish my 200-hour yoga certification because at this point in my life, I was so burnt out because I had just gone, all chasing this very external idea of once I graduate with all my degrees and all these certifications, I'm going to know who I am and I'm going to have all the time in the world to live. And that just burns you out. I gave everything I had and had nothing to show for it is what it felt like. So I was just kind of searching authenticity and I was burnt out for a long time. After quitting school, I thought like, okay, I'll have a month of rest or 2 months of rest and then I'm going to be back in the game. I'm going to be grind mode. And that's not at all how it worked. I feel like I rested for about a year and a half, in all different forms too. So at this point in my life, I was so burnt out. My nervous system was a wreck. I was anxious from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, like fight or flight all day. And it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I was having panic attacks and I didn't know what was going on. And because I was such a head type, I thought I can think my way through this. I can figure it out and I'll be fine. I can just figure it out. And I tried everything that I knew how to do and it wasn't working. And so finally, I remember I was with my parents one day and like having a great day. We were having a wonderful day. Nothing externally caused this, but I just started having a panic attack and I finally told them, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is every day and I don't know what to do about it. And my dad was like, you have to meditate. And I had meditated some off and on here and there. But he was like, it's not an option. You have to meditate every single day. So, I mean, the whole journey is a spiritual journey, but I feel like this healing, this time where I was like, okay, nothing is working. I have got to deep dive into my own healing and figure this out before I keep trying to build on top of it, because I didn't have the foundation. My foundation was an absolute wreck. So then everything I was trying to build on top of it just kept crumbling. So it was like very humbling. So I was like, okay, we have to slow it down, which up until this point in my life, I had never done. So I didn't know how to slow it down, but I knew I could start with one thing. I could start with meditating. And of course, everything aligns as it does. So I started meditating just for 10 minutes every day. I was using the Calm app, and it was amazing. I completely cut out caffeine, which made a huge difference. I was dunking my face in a mixing bowl full of ice water every single day before doing Wim Hof, the breathing technique, and meditating. I was saying no to all these external plans. I honestly stayed home and just calmed my nervous system for so long. And with this came a lot of pain and a lot of processing. I tend to be a runner, so when stuff gets icky feeling, I'm like, oh, I can outrun this. And that doesn't work. So it was a lot of sitting with things, a lot of healing. And this was all of when I was 23. This whole year of being 23 was like a year of unlearning and healing and a lot of accepting and a lot of surrendering. And then into 24, I still felt like I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but I was almost done with my yoga certification and I was feeling a little bit more energized, but I had just come to the point where I wasn't going to force anything. And that was a mantra I said every single day. I remember on my way to work, before I went to bed, after I was meditating, all day, every day, I would inhale and I would say, I flow. And as I exhale, I do not force. And I just repeated this constantly because it was a form of checking in with myself and making sure I wasn't forcing anything or doing anything because I felt like I should or it had to be happening. I just wanted to remain in this flow state. And so it just caused me to constantly check in with myself. And so then my 24th year, I went into the year with the mantra of calling my power back to me. I had no idea what that meant. And I just, if I've learned anything in this life, it's that you don't actually have to have all the steps. If you lay out a plan and you're like, here's everything I'm going to do, kindly, it's not going to go that way anyway. So I just quit having a plan. I just trusted that if I had an intuition and I led with this intuition in my heart, everything would work out. And it does. It always does. So all of my 24th year in this life, I led with that in mind. And I started to evaluate everything that I was, watching or listening to, like the type of music, the TV shows, how long are you on your phone, where are all of these things that you're giving your energy to? And it made me evaluate a lot, like what I was eating, just everything that I was consuming, and how much of that energy it was taking and how much it was giving back. And so if it was not really giving anything back and it was more of a form of a distraction, it was out. We don't have time for that. I think we have enough distractions in life where you could be on your phone and look at something different literally all day. And I mean, I'm human, so I still get on my phone. I still watch TV. I'm still a human living in this world at this time, and those things are all very present. And so it is hard to not be in a constant state of distraction. But I feel like that's what this past year was for me, was just calling all of that back to me and giving myself this energy and giving myself this respect and attention that we need, and just getting in touch with me and not feeling like I have to know who I am, as in I could write a description of the person I think I am and give it to you, because then I contradict myself, and I'm always changing, I'm always growing, and I don't fully understand who I am, but I'm learning. And so just coming into that year with that energy, and now as we enter the 25th year, I decided I'm stepping into that power. So I feel like I called all of it back to me, and we can deep dive in more of that. This is trying to keep it a brief overview of how we got here. So of course, we can always deep dive into all of that more. But this is the year of stepping into my power. So I called my power back to me, which is a constant. I'm always checking in and making sure that I'm aligned with what feels authentic, and I'm giving back to myself, and where my energy is going is also where it's coming back. So that's a constant. But from this state, like the most stable I've ever felt. And so from this state, I feel like, okay, I know my power, I know my gift, I know my worth, and I'm willing and ready to expand on that and share that. And so that's how we got here. So that's the briefest overview I feel like I can give. And it was kind of vague, so of course we can always dive deeper into more. But that's how we got here to episode 1 of this podcast. So my intention with this podcast is really to just share from my experience. Hopefully I can have other people on here and we can listen from their experience. And I would like to say I am not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a nutritionist, a dietitian, I'm not any of these things. So I am sharing from this space of I don't think I have all of the answers, I don't think I know everything. I'm not saying these things with the expectation that you follow all of them. Like I'm not saying do XYZ and your life will be rainbows and butterflies, because that's just not how it works. And I don't think that I know everything. I'm still in a state, and I always will be in a state of learning. So I am just sharing what has worked for me thus far and what hasn't worked for me, because they're both equally important. And if it sits right with you and you like it and you feel like you can take something from that, great. I'm honored. And if not, let it go. That's okay. Take it if you need it. If you don't, let it go. So that's the vibe of the podcast, hopefully. And I'm excited to keep making more of these and having these discussions and just sharing with you all in this space. So thank you for being here, and I can't wait for episode 2.